Hi class, I'm glad that you guys all decided to come to school today because today we're going to be learning how to thread the sewing machine. I know some of you may have already started this or learned this or know how to do this, but we're going to go through it step by step as a class. Now, just because you know how, it's still important that you keep up with the class and stay in pace with us. Don't go ahead. And for those of you who feel like you might struggle, raise your hand and say that you need a little more time, or for the substitute teacher to rewind the video. Okay, first we're going to have all of our sewing machines out. You should have that out right now. That's part of your bell work. Once you have your sewing machine set up, let's start threading it. Okay, in order to thread your machine, you're going to need three things. You're going to need a spool of thread, you're going to need a bobbin, and your sewing machine. Now, most of you should have bought a spool of thread. If not, there's some in the back of the room on the rack or in the black plastic drawers on the back shelf. Okay, now most of you probably don't know what a bobbin is, or have never seen one, or don't know what I'm talking about. Now, when you are sewing, there are two things that are happening when your needle's going down. It's taking thread from the top going down, and it's then almost like creating a knot, going around the bobbin and catching that thread so that you have a line going underneath your fabric and a line going on top of your fabric, and they're interconnecting. So we're going to start by threading our top thread. Okay, when you're looking at your sewing machine, on the top of it, you will either have one that comes sideways, and you'll need a cap for it. There's little ones or big ones, doesn't matter what you have. Or you'll have one that is standing straight up right here. Those ones are easy, you don't need a cap. All right. In order to thread your machine, like I said, you need to have your top thread, and that's going to go right there. Your substitute will now pause the video so that you can each retrieve your thread. Okay, there are two different types of threads that you'll most likely see. These are how they are made now, and these are more of an older type. They're still made sometimes, but more likely you'll see this. With this one, you will see that the thread is stored between the cap and the spool. Easy. Now on these ones, they have a little slit in the plastic where, I don't know if you can see that. See that? Where it goes right into the plastic. There we go. And see, that right there is one that you have to pay attention to how it's going to go into the machine. But this one is pretty standard, and it goes one way usually, and I'll show you that in a second. All right, for this type of thread, where it has the slit, you always want to make sure that it's on this, going on this way. If you put it on this way, as you sew, it'll get caught on that and break your thread. So you always want to make sure it's facing that way. Now with the other type of thread, this one, it goes so the thread rolls over the top into the back, just like this. Whoop. Over the top. See, it goes over the top into the back, just like this. All right, now let's put our thread on. You'll take your cap off, put your thread on. If it's a new thing, you'll have to push through the tape. Putting your cap on holds your thread in place so it doesn't come off while you sew. All right, now threading your machine is quite easy. You just need to follow the pictures. It starts with having an arrow that goes around right here. So everybody do that. Put your thread around the arrow. Remember, even if you've done this before, stick with the class so that everybody can do it together. Now, you're going to follow the arrow 1, going down. And it's going to go right through that crack. Everybody do that. Now, when you get down here, you're going to follow the 2. It tells you to go down and around and back up. Is everybody doing that? Now we're going to go to 3. And it wraps around this metal piece right here. This is called the thread take-up lever. This is called the thread take-up lever. Now, this is probably one of the most important parts of threading your machine. If your thread comes out of this spot, it will not sew properly. It will bunch up your thread underneath and you'll get super frustrated and wonder, why is my sewing machine not sewing? So this is the first place you want to check. Now, if you cannot see yours, it's hidden like this, all you have to do is take your hand wheel. Watch for the lever. If you roll your hand wheel towards you, see there? It comes right back up. See how the thread goes through the circle part of that? That's what you want. You want to make sure it gets all the way to the circle part of the metal. Now, that's 3. Let's go to 4. So you just went through 3. See how the arrow tells you to go around and then back down? That's what you're going to do next. Through this hole. See where 4 says? It says to go down. And then you're going to see on the side of where your needle is, right there, there's a little part that you can hook it on. And that's where you're going to hook your thread. See, easy peasy. Now, you're going to take the end of your thread and put it through the hole in your needle. You're going to thread it from the front through to the back. Now, if you're having a hard time threading it, look at the end. Is your end starting to fray? Just cut a little bit off and then try again. And that's how you thread the top of your machine. Okay, you should have all threaded the top part of your machine. If you are done, look around, see if a neighbor is struggling, and help them out. Also, if you are struggling, look for a neighbor and see if they can help you. We're going to pause the video right now, and the substitute is going to go around and check to see if everybody's machine is threaded at the top. Now remember that the most important part is going through all those steps, but definitely through step 3 and getting it into that little hole of the metal take-up lever. Okay, now that you've threaded the top part of your machine, we're going to try it again. Except this time, we're going to do it a little bit faster. All right, in order to take the thread out of your machine to start over, you just pull on it. Okay. Now, remember, you start by following the arrows, going around the top, down the front, around 2, back up, through your take-up lever. Remember to get it through that hole. Take it back down and around the side, and then through your needle. And sometimes it takes a few tries to get it through your needle. That's normal. Don't worry. And like I said, if you are having troubles getting your needle through, just clip the top like that and try again. And sometimes it takes a second. And I've been sewing for a long time, and it still takes me a few seconds. Something I like to do so that the machine does not get it stuck, I like to hold it in my hand till it gets all the way to the needle so it doesn't wrap around the bottom or tie into a knot. Okay, there you go. Let's try it one more time. This time, faster. All right, now we can pause the video to check and see if everybody is doing okay. If you're struggling, raise your hand. Okay, now we're going to try it again, this time even faster. So take out your thread. We're going to go around the top, down and around 2, back up through 3, down through 4, and then through our needle. It's important that you know how to thread your machine. If you have to wait for somebody else to thread your machine every time you need to use the machine, you're going to be waiting an awful lot. Now, this is a great opportunity for me as your teacher to talk to you about a procedure that we're going to be using in our class during the sewing unit. I don't know if you guys could tell for the last couple of days, but it is really hard for me to get around to the whole class. There's only one of me, and there's anywhere from 20 to 28 of you. So, this rule is something that we use. It's called Ask 3 Before Me. Now, if you have a question about something, or you're struggling with something, or not sure what to do next, you should ask 3 other of your neighbors, your fellow students, before you come to me or the teacher. I know that can sometimes be frustrating, but a lot of times your neighbor can know what to do. Or if there's a few of you that are struggling with the same thing, go around and see if someone has already done that thing, and then you can proceed by them helping you. All right. Most of you, like I said, probably haven't seen these and probably don't have one. That's okay. I've got a lot in the classroom. There are some on the back wall where we store the thread, as well as a stack that I left for you. Some of these are pre-wound, and if I didn't get a chance to take out the thread to get it started for you, the way that it works is you have to find the end, and it's going to be tucked underneath some of this thread. Scratch that. I'm just going to do it for you. All right? You can use these, but when you borrow a bobbin, you have to make sure that you put it back at the end of the class. So, meet me back at the sewing machine. All right. Remember this guy? We're going to put him into the machine and thread him. All right. There's a few things that you have to know about how to put in your bobbin. But most of it is done with a picture. That's a great thing about most sewing machines. They have visuals that show you exactly how you should thread them. Now, right here on your machine is a little black lever with an arrow that says points this way. You're just going to pull that and look what happens. Your cover pops up. You may have already done this on accident. Now, on your cover, on your cover is a picture. On that picture, it shows exactly how they want you to put your bobbin in. It shows you the direction that the thread should be going, and it should be going up over the top. And then you'll see right here, it shows another part. It goes over the top and then around right there. This part right here represents a metal piece that is inside your bobbin case. And your thread must go around it in order for it to properly work. Okay. Now, this is the way that I am holding my bobbin. Is it going up over the top facing that way? No. So I need to flip mine around like this. Now it's going up over the top that way. Okay, you're going to place your bobbin in. Let's see if we can get a close-up on that. Okay, now see this metal part right here? That's the part that the picture's talking about, that your thread needs to go around. Just like that. Okay? Now, this next part has to do with both your bobbin and your top thread. Now, your bobbin is currently still down here. You need it to be up through here with your other thread. The way that you do that is by holding on to your top thread. That's the one that you put through your needle. And you're going to take your hand wheel right here, and you're going to turn it towards yourself. And as you do that, your needle's going to go down, and then it's going to go back up. And when it comes up, you're going to see your upper thread go across your bobbin and pick it up. And then you're going to give that one, the one you're holding on to, a little bit of a tug, and it will pull your bobbin thread out. Now let's see if we can get a close-up of that so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, right now, your bobbin, this bobbin, has its thread going up over the top and that way. We're just going to slide it in and drop it in. Now remember that little metal part right there? That's what we're going to put our thread around. See this? I'm holding on to my thread while I'm also rolling the hand wheel towards myself and having the needle go up and come, or go down and then come back up. See that thread coming across right there? It's going to pick up your other one and you're going to give it a tug. See how you have both threads up now? You can pull your bobbin thread all the way out like that. And then you put them behind you. And then you can put the cover back on. And you're ready to sew. Now, have the substitute pause the video and practice that a few times. Okay, now that you guys have practiced threading up your machine, both the top thread as well as the bobbin, you're ready to start sewing. So the first thing that we're going to sew on is we're going to use the seam allowance practice sheet. Now this probably looks backwards to you, but we're going to use the seam allowance practice sheet. And you're going to be sewing on the dotted lines, and this line should line up different distances from your needle. 5/8 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/8 inch, 1/4 of an inch. You should try looking for some of those numbers on your machine. They have marks and lines that you can follow as you sew along. It's a little bit harder on paper because your paper will cover up some of those lines. But it's a good practice to see just how much distance it is from the needle to these other lines. Okay, so you'll sew on this. Remember to put your name on it just in case it falls out of your folder, and then put it into your folder to turn it in. The next thing that you will need is 2 pieces of fabric. Okay. Your substitute should have a stack of this. It's enough for each of you to have 2. Now, remember when we handed out this paper? And it says watch for these symbols on, and you're going to be seeing these symbols inside your instructions. Well, you may have already noticed some of them, like chalk it up, or cut / clip or even press. But do you remember these two? This one is a symbol for your right side of your fabric. This one is a symbol for your wrong side of your fabric. Now, the way that works on fabric is it looks similar, something like this. Now, the right side of your fabric is going to look a little more bold. You're going to see the vibrant colors and things like that. The wrong side of the fabric is dull. See, it's not vibrant. You can't see the pattern as well. That's the wrong side of the fabric. It's what goes on the inside. Now, some of your fabrics look very similar on the front and the back and don't really have a wrong and a right side. And that's okay. Just choose one and try to stick to that side. All right, so the substitute can pause the video right now while you gather up this sheet as well as 2 of these. And then I'll meet you back here. Let's start sewing. It's a little bit hard to show some of this with a one-person cameraman. I don't have a camera crew, so we're going to do our best. All right, we're going to start with our paper, the seam allowance. Now, make sure that your machine is on, and you're going to line up the dotted line with the middle of your presser foot. Remember, this is your presser foot. If you'll notice, if you start with the 1/4 line, you'll notice that there's a line on the inside of your presser foot that line lines up with perfectly. That's how you know it's at 1/4 of an inch. All right, to start, just like we did with no thread, you're going to start by pushing your presser foot. Remember, if I don't even touch it, it's going to go through pretty straight. I just have to give it little adjustments, okay? Remember not to hold it tight or it'll rip your paper. Now, once we get to... Okay, now that I'm at the end, I'm going to show you how to backstitch. Remember this button right here? It's got kind of like a U-turn symbol. Look what happens when I push it. It goes backwards, and then when I let it goes backwards. Then when I let it go, it goes forward again. Let's try that again. See? That's called a back stitch. You're going to use that at the beginning and end of each of your stitches when you're sewing on fabric. Now, once you're done, you can lift up your presser foot. Remember this lever? Roll your hand wheel if your needle's still down, and then just pull out your thread. Yeah. And right here, this is called a thread cutter. You put that through there, like that. It cuts your thread. Pretty nifty. Now, we're going to pause the video right there and give you each a chance to sew on your paper. Once you're done, raise your hand so the substitute knows that we're getting close to everybody finishing. Once everybody's finished, we're going to move to the fabric. Are you ready for that? All right, let's do our fabric. The way that we sew on fabric, we usually sew with our right sides together. So if I ever say right sides together, it means that the right sides are touching each other and the wrong sides are on the outside. This is called right sides together. Now, if you're making a pillowcase, you're going to have a part where you start with wrong sides together. And it feels kind of weird, and you're like, wait, is this right? But this is the way you're going to sew it first, is with right sides together. Then you're going to turn it inside out, and then sew it right sides together. So first, wrong sides together, then right sides together. But that's just for the pillowcase. If you're making a drawstring bag, don't worry about it. That's for the 8th graders. All right. When you're ready to sew, you want to line up your edges. See, they're not quite lined up. Now, That's better. You're going to line them up like that. Then you're going to put it under your presser foot. Oh. Sometimes your thread gets a little wet crazy, and you kind of just have to figure out what's going on. All right. Now, you're going to line it up at 3/8 of an inch. That's the line just outside your presser foot. You can even use the edge of your presser foot as a line. That's pretty close. Okay. You're going to start with a back stitch. So if you put it in a ways, like this, instead of starting right at the edge, see where my needle is and the edge? Push it in a little bit. Then you can start with a back stitch. So you're going to go just like 3 or 4 stitches back and then go forward again and then continue forward. Now, there's little teeth under here that are called feed dogs, and they want to pull your fabric, and that's what helps it move. That's why you can let it go and it moves forward. It's because of those feed dogs. The problem is your presser foot is flat on the bottom, and it doesn't pull the fabric as fast. So sometimes your bottom tries to go faster than your top. So the way that you stop that is by the way that you hold it. Okay, so you're going to put 3 fingers on top and your thumb on the bottom, and then you're going to turn it at a 90-degree angle. Okay, let's show that again. 3 fingers on top. You can even do 2, especially as it gets closer, and your thumb on the bottom at a 90-degree angle from the sewing machine. Okay, and as you sew forward, that helps you, and this hand kind of guides it. You never have to usually put your hand anywhere past the needle. It should always stay kind of right here. And you're going to sew down just like that. And as you get closer, you can move to 1 finger. Okay? And then right here, you kind of just let it slide through. Then when you get the end, remember to back stitch again. See that again? Back stitch and then let it go and go forward. Again, roll your needle, pull it out. Use this guy right here to cut your threads and pull your threads back a little. And there you go. Now, this is how you will sew with a back stitch at the beginning and the end. You open it up. You have a nice line on the front, and you got your seam allowance on the back. Right, are you ready to try it? Okay, Substitute's going to pause the video and let you guys all try it. And once you're done, remembering to backstitch at the beginning and the end, you can raise your hand so the Substitute knows when everyone is finished. You'll put this into your folder as well so I can grade it. Right? Have fun sewing. All right, did you guys have fun using thread in your machine? Now you're ready to work on your projects. At the beginning of class, I had you sit in specific places. So if you're ready to sew or have already started sewing, you can sit at table 1 and 2. Those are the ones closest to the cupboards and the sink. In the middle are the bigger tables. Those ones, I want to have those that are cutting. If you still got a little bit cutting left to do, sit there. Now, if you are just getting started, you were either absent or didn't have your materials, you're going to be sitting at tables 7 and 8. Those are the last tables closest to my desk. And you will begin to the cutting process and following through on the directions. Now, each of you should have gotten directions. For my 8th grade class, your directions will take you through to the cutting process. And then you will have a video that will show you how to sew from there. Now, my 7th grade class, I finished the instructions for the rest of your pillowcase, and I will have that available. It starts with step 5, I believe, and goes to step 8. And that will take you through the entire process. Now remember to read your instructions, and there are checkpoints along the way for the substitute to check where you're at to make sure that you're doing it correctly. We've had a lot of people cut their fabric the wrong way because they weren't paying attention or didn't have it checked. Make sure that you do that, especially those that are still cutting. We need to make sure that they all are long enough and wide enough to make the pillowcase. So when you're done, each of your strips should be the same amount of length, but just different widths of 4 inches, 13 inches, and 25 inches so that you can make your pillowcase. All right, are you guys ready? Now we're going to have separate videos for the separate groups depending on what step you are on. Happy sewing!